Hey everybody, I have a video here for you today and I want to keep this Ancient America series rolling. Though my time for making videos is ever decreasing, but I'm good at squeezing in every last bit of time here and doing these fairly quickly. But we are going in today to northern Chicago area here, and we're going to talk about some ancient ruins that nobody else on YouTube has ever talked about. Isn't that worth a video? Ancient ruins. Huge city of Chicago. Well, I think it is, but this is pretty easy for me to make the first video on a lot of these sites because, well, for some reason nobody else talks about them. But in this block here, a long time ago, we had a large lizard effigy. We had a large Indian village, and this isn't the only site in Chicago where, well, a little bit of progress has taken over and totally wiped out even any memory of what existed here once before. Now I'm wondering how many people in Chicago know that right here, this is near Wellington and Sheffield and Oakdale Avenues, that a long time ago, maybe 1,000, 2,000 years ago, there was a giant lizard effigy, there was a large Indian village, and obviously an important sacred site. This is what we have here today. Traces of anything even resembling something ancient, totally buried beneath modern construction. But this whole block area, a long time ago, was a sacred site with sacred structures. But just to get oriented with some people who are familiar with Chicago, here is famous Wrigley Field up here, and my brother and I love the Cubbies. Chris Bryant is a good customer of his during the winter, and he actually got to play golf with Greg Maddux a few weeks ago. But this is, let's see here, this is less than a mile directly south of Wrigley Field. So that is an idea where these ruins are. I've been to Wrigley Field once in the 90s. I saw Barry Bonds and George Bell hit 3 home runs in the same game. And then the rest of the night is just a sudsy, hazy memory. But here, down here, no trace or memory of it with a lot of people. But going over here to a map, here is a map of old Chicago, and here clearly one certain guy wanted to make sure that these were not forgotten about, so he made some drawings here of what this looked like. Effigy mound he called it, and I think he related this to a lizard. But here is that whole area here between Oakdale, Wellington, and bordered north-south by Sheffield. Now here is WBEZ 91.5 Chicago website where they talk about these, and this is a good article. It says, archaeologists haven't confirmed the existence of the effigy mound in Lakeview, but there is some archival evidence of its location. I have brought forward some heroes and some villains in this Ancient America series as far as the ruins and what we have left today. But here is a guy that definitely deserves some credit I'm going to talk about right now. It says, this guy's source for the location of the lizard effigy mound was likely an artist, an amateur archaeologist named Carl Dilg, who was obsessed with Chicago's archaeological history and on a personal quest to document the archaic sites of Chicago. As he wrote in a private letter, Dilg wanted to make sure Chicago's history was not smothered and killed. The Chicago History Museum has a large collection of Dilg's papers, including notes he made from dozens of excursions to archaeological sites around Chicago in the 1880s and 1890s. They contain multiple references to a mound in Lakeview, which he referred to as a lizard or as a serpent. Dilg made several sketches of artifacts found near the mound, as well as a map of the area known as Lakeview, showing the exact location of the mound, which you can see in his map. And here is that map again. The location is clearly shown. Other people have described this place in old records. It existed, and then the memory of it was just kind of wiped clean, like in all these other big cities. These big cities were not founded by people who you think founded them. All these major cities in the upper United States, the first thing that was here, the first structures, these sites were founded by who we call the mound builders, and we don't know who those people are. This article also goes over the kind of the controversy And when reading into it, and reading what other people had to say, it's pretty crystal clear what happened. Dilg was not a professional archaeologist, though he made pretty meticulous notes, though he didn't do some things like put in lengths and dimensions, but by the drawing it's clear that these were pretty big effigies. And then the professional archaeologist kind of downplayed his work and probably wanted to discredit him in some way, just because I don't think they wanted Chicago or that area maybe to be known for totally wiping out massive ancient earthworks that went back maybe 1,000 or 2,000 years or who knows how long. But here are some of the drawings that Dilg made, and I guess some of these mounds were built on top of the effigy, and then some of these drawings are part of the effigy itself, and he clearly marks them as the Lakeview effigies. It says, "We know that there is no lizard mound in Lakeview today, so if it did exist, then what happened to it?" Now it says, about 15 years after Dilg made his sketches, Charles Brown, a distinguished archaeologist from Wisconsin, visited Chicago to review Dilg's extensive work. Brown wrote about Dilg's observations, including one sentence about the Lakeview effigy mound. A lizard mound of doubtful origin was located on Oakdale Avenue and Wellington Street under the present elevated station. And it says, Brown note suggests there was some kind of mound that was probably destroyed by the construction of the elevated train line that eventually became the Chicago Transit Authority's Brown Line. His use of the phrase of doubtful origin suggests Brown, a leading expert on effigy mounds at the time, doubted the mound in Lakeview was a true effigy mound like those 800 to 1,200-year-old mounds in Wisconsin. And there is a lizard mound park fairly close to here, over the border into Wisconsin. And remember what's very important when looking at the ancient United States, take out all the current state boundaries, because sometimes that kind of blurs connections between certain sites. I just want to say that. This expert of Dilg's work, and he says of doubtful origin, to me that suggests he's just not sure who built them. That's just the way it seems to me. But here are the effigy mounds at, I think it's called Lizard State Park or something like that in Wisconsin. But if you go on Google Earth, you can actually see some of these effigies in the woods if you go to the right time period where there's no leaves on the trees. Here is one of the effigy mounds in that park in Wisconsin, and not too far away from Chicago. But this is a place that I wanted to talk about, so I'll just mention it in today's video. But Dilg seemed to make some pretty good notes, and he was determined that the history of this place wasn't to be lost. He knew what was going to happen. These were going to be destroyed for progress and more current constructions. He saw that coming. He wanted to document this stuff so people would never forget about it, but they did. And I'm just kind of relaying what this guy wanted to happen. But here, these are some of Dilek's notes, and to me, it's pretty clear this guy wanted this history not to be forgotten. But then professional archaeologists, how much credit are they going to give to somebody who's not a professional archaeologist? Well, they kind of discredit him and kind of doubt his work, but he wanted this stuff not to be forgotten. It has been forgotten, but I'm just kind of relaying his message to you people. This place should not have been forgotten. This was a primary mound site, an important sacred site in North Chicago today. Now here's a map done about 118 years ago by an Albert Scharf, and it details the whole surrounding area around Chicago, and in the area, lizard mound, Indian mounds detailed, and an original trail that existed before nothing modern in Chicago was here. A large lizard effigy here near this, what was here an Indian village and what he describes as a chipping station. But what interests me here is up the trail near Foster Avenue. It's clearly denoted there was an Indian village with mounds, and also what he describes as a signal station. On Scharf's map, here is the location down here of the lizard effigy. But a long time ago, this is Foster Avenue here. This is the neighborhood today. An ancient Indian village with mounds existed here a long time ago. I see a football field. Looks like there might be a school here, some industry, but it says North Shore Channel Trail along the water here, Mackenzie Drive, North Virginia Avenue, and California Avenue are a few of the cross streets that cross West Foster Avenue. Site of an ancient Indian village. Not much left here today. Today, well, seems that time and progress has kind of taken over in this neighborhood. The people who built these mounds originally love nature. They love the rolling landscape. They kind of used it to form their cities and their memorial sites. Today, nature, landscape, well, times have changed. This place has been totally forgotten. Right in the middle of Chicago today, pretty much. Less than a mile south of famous Wrigley Field, we had ancient ruins in Chicago. Multiple people documented ancient ruins in the northern Chicago area today. We had a large lizard effigy. We had villages. We had a mound site here near Foster Avenue. Some people didn't want this information lost, and that seems to be what happened. This is the first video on YouTube documenting this. Sometimes I feel little taps on my shoulder saying, hey, can you help me out? This is some good information, and that's what I'm doing today. The Lost Ruins of Chicago. Hope you thought that was cool, and you all have a very nice day.